Hey, this is list 8 from a series to review rhetorical devices you might see in speeches and readings you come across that can help with questions on college level tests, whether it's a multiple choice rhetorical analysis or you're having to analyze a passage of writing and write an essay that analyzes the rhetorical strategies that an author has. You should be aware of rhetorical devices and how they function so that you can kind of figure out and analyze how an author is putting together an argument. But remember, just because you can identify a bunch of rhetorical devices doesn't guarantee that you're going to have a passing grade, because in rhetorical analysis, you have to identify the author's purpose and the author's audience, then talk about how the rhetorical choices or the rhetorical devices help achieve that purpose. So, you can still get a good score without specifically naming a bunch of rhetorical devices, but you have to focus on what the writing is actually doing to help an author achieve the purpose. So at the very least, these lists are going to give you an idea of the uses and functions of a lot of rhetorical devices so you can see how the author is using the language to develop an argument. Now, because there are so many terms, I grouped them around some common functions to hopefully make a little more sense, of how they're used rhetorically. So I'm calling list 8 Getting Told to talk about devices that are meant to give advice, communicate wisdom, or teach a lesson. So I guess you're about to get told about some important rhetorical devices. So here we go. So number 92 is dehortatio or dehortation. Dehortatio is imperative or necessary advice about how not to act and what not to do. There's a sense of authority behind it. Think of sayings you might have heard like never judge a book by its cover or never put off until tomorrow what you can do today. The idea is to discourage one action in favor of another. An author would use dehortation to communicate strong feelings or assuredness against a course of action. So while an author may be relying on ethos to give him or her authority in the dehortation, there's always a risk of sounding pushy or bossy if the audience is hostile or not in agreement. So usually you'll see dehortation or dehortatio when there is a connection or a bond between the author and the audience. Number 93 is diatyposis. Now, diatyposis is basically advice or rules to live by, like words of wisdom. So while dehortatio is what you should not do, diatyposis is encouragement of what should be done. So, anything Yoda says, when Yoda says, you must unlearn what you have learned, that's a horrible Yoda, but that is diatyposis. The same with dehortatio, right? An author or speaker must have established ethos for the advice to be valued or respected, or the audience will be dismissive. So that again would communicate a connection with the audience. Number 94 is didactic. Now, didactic is a term for writing and literature that is designed to teach or instruct. Now, it might be used to describe writing that's intended to give kind of a moral or maybe political instruction. So in that sense, it may actually lack extra details or a richness of description and might just be more to the point. So for this reason, applying the term didactic to a writing piece sometimes has a negative connotation as being less interesting or dull. But however, it's a great word to describe the tone of an author who is trying to give advice or instruction, especially if it borders on lecturing. You could call it a didactic tone in its instruction. Number 95 is pedantic. Now, pedantic is similar to didactic, but this word applies to something being taught that is more scholarly or academic, but also can border on lecturing. So if writing or speech seems really concerned with details and rules, especially if it has an academic nature, it can be called pedantic. So in this word too, to be labeled pedantic can often have negative connotations, but it's also a great tone word to describe overly scholarly or meticulous, detailed writing. Number 96 is sententia, and this is actually the last word in this list. It's a shorter one, but sententia is a wise saying. Sometimes it's a proverb or a motto or what's called a maxim, M-A-X-I-M. So sententia is quoting a wise saying to apply to a truth or a point that an author is trying to make in an argument. And so the wise saying or the motto or the proverb is meant to kind of conclude or sum up the point the author is trying to make, because it's an attempt to connect it to well-known wisdom. So let's say someone is giving you advice about completing a job and they end with, like it's been said, work smarter, not harder. So you can see that they're trying to use that saying to make their advice or what they're saying seem more credible. So that's how sententia comes in handy. And that actually concludes, list 8, a review of rhetorical devices that are about giving advice, wisdom, or insight. So hopefully these were helpful, but please check out the playlist for Advanced English that covers, obviously, 7 more lists of rhetorical devices so far, and more to come. So hopefully they help you unlock how an author puts together an argument. I appreciate you taking the time to check this out, and hopefully you found it helpful. It would be awesome if you could subscribe and tell people about the channel. Here is the playlist of the other rhetorical devices. Here's some writing workshops that I have put together that will help you, with some of the writing that you might be doing. And then here's just something for fun, because we all got to relax sometime. Check it out, please. Until next time.